This is your go-to podcast for the breaking news across the NFL, while breaking down how this might affect your fantasy team's success. Are you ready to be a champ? Then welcome to Fields of Fantasy.
How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Johnny B, back again for some DFS action with Fields of Fantasy. Well, unfortunately, Dowie is 3 weeks scouting out in Texas, doing some college ball and some. Well, he's not getting. Probably, might go around some of the Texas teams, but you never know. But he might not be here, but you're still blessed anyway, because Josh is jumping back on in his stead. So you've got me and Josh taking the reins for the next 3 weeks, and hopefully this week we'll win some money, because if you've been following the Fields of Fantasy Acca, we had a very good first 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks have let you down. We're 2-2, and we've got to get to 3-2, haven't we, Josh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Happy to be back on the podcast. And
Yeah,
I've heard from the old scouting that Dowie's down with the old turf. So he's out there with Burrow getting looked at in Texas. That's what's going on in the rumor mill. But don't like to speculate, sir.
yeah. He used to be well involved in the game, but he's retired from that as well, isn't he? And he was complaining about injuries then. Right. So let's talk about the Acca then this week. Let's pull it up. Who have you backed this week, Josh?
I have backed this week, gone a little bit rogue. I've gone with the Ravens and the outside one, the Colts.
Yeah.
They're my. I thought this week was pretty tough, to be fair. I think we were saying, obviously, with the boys and stuff starting to kick in, it's going to get a little bit tough. The Ravens was a hard one to pick because of up against my Texans. But yeah, and then I think the Colts have got the Raiders. So I think two tough games, but I'm hoping, like I say, I'm hoping this time we're on the right side of it and we're back to 3-2 and back to winning ways where we should be.
Yeah, I think so. You did draw the short straw because you had to pick last this week, and with those bye weeks coming in, definitely we've got less games to pick from. So Dowie came straight out and took the obvious two, and then I took the next two, which is Bills and Chiefs, Lions and Eagles, with the obvious ones. And then was hard from there, I think. After those four are gone, it's just trying to find some teams you fancy. And I mean, I don't want to talk bad about your team, but the Texans have been crap. So yeah, you fancy Ravens to bounce back as well this week, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
They haven't got Lamar either, but so.
Yeah, I think they're going to rely a lot on the defense. I don't see it being a high scoring game, but I think they're going to put themselves in position to probably just keep the scoreboard ticking over.
Indeed.
So it's going to be an interesting one how they perform and whether Derrick Henry will start living up to what he used to do at Tennessee and start carrying this offense with a not so talented quarterback that he's used to at the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are confident, make sure you back it. It's 7-2 boosted to 10-1 at Fanteam. It is 18+. begambleaware.org. And hopefully we're going to get you some money this week, get back to winning ways, get back to a winning record, 3-2, and then keep on winning some more money across the season. Right, let's get into some DFS action. That is what you're all listening in for. Obviously, we do our DFS over on Fanteam. If you've not listened to us before, it is the best option across Europe for DFS action, and we highly recommend it. They pay out the most percentage than some of their competitors, so you leave more money in the game for us players to be able to win. So let's look at what Dowie's job would normally be on a DFS episode. He likes to go through what the bookies have got the points totals for all the games, to try and gauge what games are going to have less points, what's going to have more points. Then you can try and aim your players at the games, or like the DST, you maybe want to aim that at a game which you can't see many points in. So the games that are the highest this week are Jets Cowboys. That's 47.5. and then you've also got the Lions against the Bengals. That is the highest of the week, which is 49.5. So they must be predicting Lions to get 46.5 of those, because I don't see the Bengals getting much with Dowie's mate Burrow out with turf toe. And the other game, there wasn't actually that many high-scoring games on the slate, to be fair, but those are probably the two shout-outs I would have thought. And there's plenty of just games where you're going to could see droughts. Obviously, you have got games like the Texans, who are struggling to score points, against the Ravens, who are about Lamar. Will that just be a running game fest where you could target some running backs in that game? But apart from that, you might not want to target anything else, because it's going to be a low-scoring game and the clock's just going to be run out all game. So there's an interesting slate. Any games you're potentially looking at apart from the ones I mentioned?
I think the one for me would have been, which I know is not going to be on everyone's one, is the Saints versus the Giants. And more because I think it's two struggling teams. One's in a bit of a rebuild. One is starting that process of a rebuild. I think the Giants look a little bit, they're exciting to watch, I think, with Scatterboo and Jackson Dart, and their defense looks stellar, that front four. And I think the Saints, I think the Giants you can get at. And I just think that the Saints, one of them teams that they get Alvin Kamara going, they've got Chris Olave. I just think it'd be quite a high scoring game from both sides. But I probably cursed it now, and it's going to be like 9-9 or something like that. But yeah, I think that's an interesting one.
I can see that one going both ways. I did look at potentially some Saints assets as well in my team. Didn't make it, but let's see if you've got any in yours.
Yeah.
Right, quarterback. Where have you gone this week?
I have gone with probably one of, if not the most obvious choice, in Jared Goff. I think Goff was not the highest up there in terms of the price point, but I think up against Cincinnati, who can't keep an offense on the field, and their defense isn't looking the best either, I think he's going to get a lot of reps, a lot of passes, and the Lions offense, look pretty good. They look like they've picked up where Ben Johnson left. They scored some really high scoring games. So I'm hoping that will continue into this week.
Yeah, I can see that. Bengals defense this week, this year so far, against QBs have been predominantly bad against the pass. They have only conceded 21 yards rushing and 1 touchdown to QBs over the first 4 weeks. But Goff ain't the QB you're going to need to worry about him getting rushing yards. He's got those assets, hasn't he? And well over 1,000 passing yards so far and 8 touchdowns. There's a lot of points opportunity for the Bengals, I think.
Yeah.
I've gone with Justin Fields. I think
thought it.
I think he's the obvious one on the slate, which means he could be quite well owned, as well as Goff. But I think Fields has got more of that upside, because although Goff can get plenty of touchdowns, his points scoring doesn't seem to be that high. Maybe that's down to interceptions or whatever. I can't work it out really, because Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to get a lot of points as soon as Gibbs. And it could be that they just seem to run it in a lot with Gibbs. I don't know, but it's been quite a lot, about 13 points or something like that for Goff. But I think the other obvious one is definitely Fields against the Cowboys, who are trash. They are the worst team against quarterbacks. The most yards conceded, 1,237, 10 passing touchdowns. And I don't see Fields necessarily as the best passer in the game. Absolutely far from it. But he has got weapons like Garrett Wilson. And they have also conceded well over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns on the ground as well. So I think...
Yeah, I think his scramble's going to massively increase it. I think every game that I've watched the Cowboys playing, you've seen it with even the Giants, with Russ, and he's not the most mobile, but that scramble, they just can't seem to contain the quarterback and to keep these players alive. So I think I definitely think he's probably going to be I was surprised he wasn't the number one in terms of the pick. I was surprised that Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield were more expensive where they put
Yeah,
him. But I
a little
think
bit
Justin
mad.
Fields is, yeah, I think Justin Fields is probably one of the most popular choices that I think a lot of people will go with, and I think rightly so. I think his scramble is going to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so it is a weird one in the QB range. You don't expect to see those names as the most expensive three on any slate.
No,
But I suppose Hertz has been a little bit more quiet. Daniels has been a little bit more quiet.
yeah, he's been injured as well, hasn't he? So
Yeah,
he's on his
yeah,
return.
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, I was
it's definitely an interesting one. I think some people might back Hertz just because his price is cheap, and at some point he's going to return well on that 17.8 price. But is it going to be against Denver? I don't know.
yeah.
Right, let's move to running backs then.
I'll let you go first on this one.
Kay, I was looking at the running backs and I was finding it difficult, or outside of Gibbs against Cincinnati. Because we've already spoke about Cincinnati. I think we're both, we're both pretty confident that the Lions are going to put up a lot of points against Cincinnati, and they are the second worst team on the slate against running backs. But not only are they bad conceding rushing touchdowns, they're also bad at conceding passing touchdowns, which suits Gibbs to the ground because we know if a running back's going to get a passing play, it's more than likely to be Gibbs over Monty. So
Yeah,
I would more likely want to back him. But outside of that, I was actually thinking, I think there's a lot of opportunity to save money on running back this week. Targeting backup running backs that are probably going to be starting because all the guys in front of them are injured. And that's whether you want to go to Houston, whether you want to go to Arizona. You could go DiMercado, hopefully you pronounce it that, and you could go, Woody Marks at Houston, 8.8 million for DiMercado, 11.5 against for Woody Marks. And if you actually look at who they're playing the Ravens, who are the worst team on the slate, and then you've got DiMercado playing Tennessee, which is the fourth worst team on the slate against running backs. So I think it's a good way of saving some money this week, and it's then allowed me to be able to splash out on a Gibbs. So it's given me that combination. I did look at, you mentioned Scatterbo, but I just ran out of money, so I had to pick the other two.
yeah. No,
Whereabouts have
very
you
good.
gone?
So I've gone with Scatterboo. I
Yeah,
think he looked really good. I think he's a real good safety net at the moment for Jackson Dart, giving him a little bit more time in the pocket to play. I think rookie quarterbacks struggle with that time, but I think he's been a real workhorse for the Giants. Real positive for him this year so far.
mhm.
He was at 15.4, so one of the higher ones that I've gone with. The highest one that I've got now is Saquon Barkley. I don't think he's hit the highs that he did last year. And I really think there's time where he's going to break out and tear a team apart. I think the Broncos are very good in the secondary. I think they've invested a lot in the linebackers, cornerback like Patrick Stan's like probably the best cornerback in the game. But I think up front they haven't really, they're not a force. And I think I'm hoping that if Jalen Hurts is a little bit quiet, then Barkley's starting to break out, and I think this could be the week where he scores some top points. And 15.6, I thought was quite cheap for Barkley. I think in previous weeks he's been a lot higher. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to take that punt on him. And the new one is Brees Hall. So he was at 13.9, which I thought again was cheap. I think in terms of the running game, both from the quarterback and the running backs, the Cowboys have given up loads and loads of yards. And I think he's made some. First 2 weeks he was very explosive, and then he's slowed down. I think against this defense, he can really run riot. He can start doing them packs and passes when they're trying to eventually try and keep Fields in the pocket. That he might be able to then break out of it. So I've gone with the three running backs there. Not the most top priced. Obviously, there was a lot of running back that was up there. Like I think there was 5 or 6 that were higher than them.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think between the three of them, it's given me a bit of a good balance going into this week.
I like Hall. I think if you want to try and if you're going to predict that the Jets and the Dallas games, there's going to be points in that game.
Yeah,
I think Hall is a good differential away from the obvious Fields and Wilson or any of the Dallas assets. I think Hall's probably one that I could see being lower owned unless the price does attract people to him. Just
yeah,
he hasn't performed as well as we know we have he can so far this season. But against Dallas, I do agree with that one. And as I said, I had Scatterbo and Barkley. At some point, he's going to return, and that price is going to just skyrocket again. Like
yeah.
50.6, you don't see that for Barkley. You didn't see it all of last season. You didn't see it at the start of this season. And because it's been slow again, his price is cheap. And at some point, he's going to score a 30 bomb. And
Yeah,
if he's at 15.6, that's ideal.
no, definitely. And that was kind of my thought process. I'm like, it's someone like him's going to hit the highs, like that offensive
Yeah.
line, Jalen Hurts, that they're gonna come back with a bang. And I'm hoping that this week is that week. I really do I think their defense has kind of struggled as well. They've lost a lot of veterans and stuff. So I'm hoping that the Eagles come back on the offense this week
Yeah.
and get some top points for me.
Yeah, and he's also one of those guys that it's not even matchup dependent for Barkley. Like if he's on his day, it don't matter who he's against either. So
No, definitely.
right. Wide receivers, who you fancying?
So I've gone to the lower end of the scale because obviously I've tried to average my team out. I've not favoured running backs or wide receivers. I thought this week was there was some good picks low down, I thought. So I've gone with my highest one was 13.6, and that's Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill's down. They're going against Carolina, who both teams are dumpster fires, but I think it might be a bit of a shootout. I think Tua will come out on top. And I think Jalen Waddle's going to be the number one target. This is his time now to step up and be that number one receiver that they wanted him to be before they brought Tyreek Hill in. He's always been in Hill's shadow. Now he's got the opportunity to step up, and I'm hoping he grabs that by both hands and shows first week of being that number one receiver what he can do. So he was my first pick. My second one was Jameson Williams. I think a lot of people are going to go Amon Ra, and I think rightly so. So I'm hoping that if the Cincinnati Bengals plan for Amon-Ra St. Brown, trying to restrain him and Jared Goff, that Goff goes to his next bet target and goes to Williams. And I think a lot of people would have owned Amon-Ra and not so much Jameson Williams. So I've gone with him. And I thought 12.6 million is a steal in a game where they're going to get a lot of reps. And I think he's going to get a lot of touches. And then the other one I alluded to a little bit earlier, that I think the Eagles' defense has slightly struggled this year, losing people like Darius Slay, Gardner Johnson, and some of the veterans in that secondary. So I'm hoping then that Cortland Sutton will step up and start connecting with Bo Nix and have a bit more of a flourish that they had at the back end of last year. And he was at 12.3, which I thought again was an absolute steal for a wide receiver one who is hopefully going to get a lot of touches and he's due to have a bit of a better performance. He hasn't really hit the heights this year. So I've gone with him. So they're my three.
Yeah, I quite like the Sutton Hall combination, not Hall, Barkley combination. Because actually, when you create your team, you've got to try and get the stories of the games, haven't you? And I think, in a way, if you think Barkley's going to have a good game, they could have a lead quickly through Barkley, be trying to run the clock down, and then all of a sudden Denver have got to throw it. And if they have to throw it, you'd imagine Sutton would be heavily involved in that. And it's interesting. I reckon you can guess two of my wide receivers, going off what you've heard of my team so far already. So you've gone like opposite. I've gone very expensive. So I like Jameson Williams, but I've obviously gone the absolute opposite, and I have gone St. Brown. And I don't think I really need to speak about him too much. He's the best wide receiver, I think, on the slate. Against probably the best opposition, or if not, up there is one of the best oppositions to try and target, I think, this week, especially with Burrow out. You know that the Lions offense is going to be on the field a lot. So there's a hell of a lot of opportunity. He's going to get the volume. And then again, Wilson against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the worst team on the slate again against wide receivers. I think they're just the worst team on the slate against everything, almost, the Cowboys. So you can target whatever you like against them. And then the other team I've gone for, I like to target the Titans last season. I'm just going to continuously target him this season again. And I do feel like this player is a bit of a boom bust player, which I don't mind because it does sometimes put people off having him. But Harrison Jr. He's one of those players that seems to get volume one week and then the Cardinals are trash the next week. So I have gone with him. And I've noticed I've got two Cardinals players in my teams, what I don't normally do. But again, I'm targeting those defenses that are just bad. And then the secondary at the Titans have been bad for years. And I'm always going to target against them because they are trash.
Yeah. I do like him. I think Marvin, like, there's some good picks in there. I think Amon Ra, I think a lot of people are going to go with him. If I could, I understand why you've gone with it, and I think he's probably the most obvious choice for a lot of people. I think people would pick him and build their team around having him in there. So I think you've got a really good balance there with the wide receivers. I think it's really good. I think I'm hoping from a selfish point of view, I'm hoping it goes the other way and he gets doubled and Jared Goff starts throwing it the other side of the field. But no, I can see why you go with him, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the way sometimes you've got to look at it is you probably need just over 1.5 points per pound that you spend on your players to win because you need to get to about 180 to 200. So he's got 120 million. So you've got to do 1.5 times. 1.5 times St. Brown, you're almost at 30 million. 1.5 times Williams, that's what? 6.3. So you're at 18.9. So you only need to get 20 points from Williams. So actually, I don't know, maybe it's better price to go with Williams in a game like this. Is who's more likely to get 20 points for Williams or 30 points for St. Brown? So it'd be interesting to see. I bet they could both get that. Easily both get that. Right, tight end then. I'll go first this time. I'm just going to say what I feel about tight ends so far this season. Don't spend your money on them. What's the point? You have the worst team. There's 3 worst teams on the slate, joint worst teams on the slate against tight ends, and the average that's been conceded against those teams are all 10 points. And the price you're paying for tight ends, I don't understand why we're paying these type of prices for tight ends because we haven't had huge numbers of the tight ends. But you're talking 14.5 million at the moment from McBride, 40 million for Bowers, 13.5 million for Ferguson, which is just crazy. So I have a lot of expensive assets. So you if you're listening, you're probably thinking, how the hell does he afford this team? Well, it's because I've saved a shit ton of money on tight end, and I may have to change it. But I just kind of looked at the slate and went, right, okay, where have we got like potential injuries in the tight ends? We've got Goddard, we've got Jen Johnson at the Saints. So I've just gone and got Calcaterra at 5.1 million against Denver because even if he gets me 5 points, I don't care because I've only spent 5 million and I've got a load of assets elsewhere. But I just don't want to spend much money on it because I just don't think it's worth it.
No, I agree. I think when you look the prices that you put in on them, like I think McBride at 14.5 million. Like I just think for the points that he scored so far this year, 5 games in, he's only averaging at just over 10 points a game.
Yeah.
For 15 million, you want that a lot higher than what he's producing. Like you look at like for that type of price, you could get Jamar Chase who's scored more points this week. Do you know what I mean? Like
on a bad day. On a bad day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think, I do agree. I think tight ends one of these from this year, and I think over the weeks of doing the DFS, it's starting to become more clear that money needs to be spent elsewhere. Where tight end, like you say, you don't know. Realistically, it's only end zone where they're going to get the points.
Yeah.
You don't see them making big chunk plays and things like that. It's unless you're a Brock Bowers potentially, but I think the highest sort of tight end in there at the minute is Jake Ferguson, which I think says a lot. It says everything that you need to know 5 weeks in, that Ferguson's the highest point scorer over the 5 weeks. So yeah, I think sound in thinking in that, and I think I've probably gone similar as well. A little bit more expensive than you, but my reason for behind him is purely like we spoke about with the Ravens and the Texans is with no Lamar, and I think there's Cooper Rush is suspected to be the starter, isn't he? Saturday. I think he's going to need a safety blanket, and if it's not Derrick Henry because they stack the box and they go, okay, we're going to put the ball in your hands and say pass it. Do I trust him to get it to a Zay Flowers, or do I trust him to get small check downs, especially to a Mark Andrews? Am I expecting him to get that in there? Mark Andrews is at 9.8 million. Am I small touchdown when they get to the red zone of these sort of players? Is he looking for his big tight end, his big safety blanket? And I think that's kind of where I've gone really with that.
Yeah, I like that. I think always targeting tight ends where they've got either a rookie QB getting in or a QB that's just not very good as a backup QB, and even the offense is going to know. Well, the offense coordinator is going to try and target not having that QB throwing the ball very far. And yeah, I could see that with Andrews, and Andrews can. He's also capable of a chunk play as well if they have to chase it a bit if Houston go up. So yeah, I could see that. I don't mind spending 9.8 million. I think Mark Andrews is the type of player you're at least going to get your money probably back. Like he's had 10 points last week and 27, and Mark Andrews is the type of guy that can go like for those 27 points as well. So you're paying a little bit less, and you've still got a ceiling price, ceiling points. Well, if you wanted to pay 15 million, you could, but I don't see the ceiling being much more than 27 anyway.
No, I think I looked, and because I've gone quite low in my wide receivers, and I haven't gone for that premium wide receiver. It allowed me to go a little bit more on my tight end. But I think if I hadn't, and I would have picked that wide receiver, then I probably would have gone down the same avenue as yourself and gone a little bit lower, and maybe gone someone that maybe will get 2 or 3 plays, but it'll be big plays in the red zone and things like that. So, but because I had tight end was literally the last position I picked, and it was just what I had left. And then seeing Mark Andrews in that thought process of going Texan secondary isn't the best in the linebacker position. Quarterback, they're going to scheme to give him small plays, get his confidence. I think he'll get touches early. And hopefully he'll hit that ceiling point of, I think the form that he's on, he's scoring 10 points for 9.8 million, and he scores minimum 10 points. He's done his job for me. That's all I need him to do.
It's low risk, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have much money left for DST?
I have, and I've gone with the second favourites, second highest, sorry. So the Cardinals were 9.6, the highest. I've gone for the Lions. I think everything we've spoken about in terms of the Cincinnati Bengals and their struggles on offense and defense and stuff like that, I just think this is a perfect opportunity for the Lions to score some high points. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to have an absolute field day in that backfield. And I think he's going to put that much pressure on the quarterback that he starts maybe trying to make throws that maybe aren't there, or trying to force it to chase, try and get things happening. So I'm quite excited to see what the Lions defense can do and hopefully score me some points. But I know that they're going to be one of the higher teams that are picked because of who they're playing against.
Yeah, it could quite easily be a slate where they go off, and if you haven't got them, you're behind like so many players because so many people have got it. Or it could be one where everyone's got it. They haven't gone huge, and then you could try and find a different DST that goes against the grain, which could be one that puts you ahead of a lot of players. I couldn't afford the Lions. And the other team I fancied at 8.5 million was the Colts. But again, I do have enough money, so I'm going to change that actually because I've got 2.2 spare. So I've just gone and picked up the Colts, so I'm happy. I was on the Giants because I thought I couldn't afford much, so I was like, I'm going to pick one of the two out of that game, and I couldn't afford the Saints on Giants. But actually, I've just realised I've got 0.2 million after fiddling with the team, so I've gone up to Colts against Vegas, who the Colts are the fourth best probably defense so far in terms of fantasy. Scoring 8.5 points on average per game. So you're probably going to get some points there. And against Gino, who I don't look particularly confident at all in that offense so far. Genty, he did play a bit better last week, but it was against a worse team, wasn't it, as well? We wasn't playing the Colts. So I think the Colts have looked good defensively so far this season.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's a team I do like, and it does go slightly away from Lions. But to be honest, I think Lions and Colts probably, in terms of pricing and ownership percentages, I think they're probably the two favourites.
Yeah, I think the only other team that I looked at, it's hard really with her, is the Seahawks. I think their Seahawks defense this year has been probably the best defense, but they're coming up with a Bucks team that have got assets everywhere. And if Mayfield's on one, he's chucking it about and he's dropping bombs. But I also think that Seahawks defense is stellar at the minute. It's putting them in positions to be really effective in games. And now I think their price point's 8.1 million, which I think is a bit of a steal. To take a punt, and hopefully they can shut that Tampa offense down. So I think that was probably my other thought process. But because I had the money and they're going against Cincinnati, and I think they've had real big struggles, and I just don't see it improving for them. I just think they haven't got the quarterback to affect them. And as bad as it sounds, and it just shows why people spend big money on backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think so. I say, look at Seahawks form of that 12.25. They're 8.1 million. They haven't scored less than 8 points a game so far this season.
No.
So there's no risk in them. And if they do get their average, you've got your 1.5 times and you're happy. But they have had probably, I'd say, a favourable run of games, particularly against the Saints and the Steelers. I think you fancy Rodgers to give away some interceptions because he ain't the Rodgers we used to before, is he really? So he hasn't got it at all, I don't think anymore. He can do a bomb now and then, but most of the time I think he looks a bit wayward. But I like Seahawks. I think I'd say they're low risk, so I think I will have them in some teams. I think Seahawks, Colts, Lions are probably the favourite three, and then I do think if you have a team where you don't have any Saints or Giants assets, picking them is probably a good bet as well. Or if you've got one asset, then picking the defence of that same team, because you're hopefully predicting that. Especially with you've got Scatterbo. If you went with the Giants defence as well, you're predicting that Scatterbo will do well. Hopefully, the Giants will get a lead. They're going to try and run the game out. Rattler's going to then be forced to throw it, who's trash. So then there's chances for interceptions, and then hopefully you get a touchdown off of it as well. So I think they're all the ones that I would target this week. Okay,
Giants at 8.3 is just an absolute steal as well. So
yeah, I think so. Quite often when I do DSTs, I had a bit of money left this week, but quite often I literally go right to the end of the cheapest and just work my way up. And I think if I work my way up, I would stop at Seahawks, and if not Seahawks, I'm going Giants. Yeah. So if you don't have much money, I think you want to try and stretch to that 8.1 at a minimum to 8.3.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening. That has been all our picks for your DFS action over on Fanteam, our chosen DFS platform of choice. Of course, we'll leave a link down in the description to Fanteam you haven't joined yet. If you do join using our link, you do get some freebies, some free bets, and some free team entries into the DFS contests. And of course, we will also leave a link to Fanteam where you'll be able to put the boosted odds on the Fields of Fantasy Accumulator for week 5, where hopefully with those higher odds, we're going to bring some money in because it's 10 to 1. So if you stick a tenner on, it's 100 quid, 18 plus, begambleaware.org. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much, Josh, for popping on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.